Hi everyone, and welcome to another tutorial from Cult of Paint. Today we're going to be painting my favourite Space Marine chapter, which is Blood Angels. This tutorial is really about army painting, so we're trying to make it look really cool but also efficient so that it's possible to actually get a full army done. So let's go for it. So for this recipe we're going to be doing pre-highlighting. So I'm using Tamiya flat white in the airbrush, and I'm trying to basically add white to wherever I want the red to be bright. Having the white underneath just really helps in giving a nice vibrant red. You can see as I move around the model, I'm just trying to make the highlights follow the shapes of the armor, and I'm also trying to make sure I'm spraying from the same direction, just so it looks like a consistent light source. When I come to do the back, I can kind of go wherever I want, it just has to look cool. We can't look at the front and the back at the same time, so it doesn't matter too much. Just come up with another light source and do what you think looks best. So now we're going to move on to the red, and we're going to paint the mid-tone first, and this is going to be with Mephiston red. Might seem like an obvious choice, but this video is really just about showing you the order in which to do all these paints to get a great looking red. So there we have the Mephiston red, and you can see it's really clear where the white was underneath, and it actually really changes the tone, and I really like the look of it. Now we're going to be adding shading, and that's going to be with Khorne red, and we're just looking to put this in any of the areas where we can see the black was on the pre-highlight. It might not look it while we're spraying, but once it's dry it will be darker, and it will also be a richer red in the shadows. Now I'm going to apply highlights with Evil Sunz Scarlet. For this I'm trying to do them as fine as possible, so I am being careful with my airbrushing. If I make any mistakes I could go back with the airbrush and tidy it up, but I just try my best to get it done right this time. So now we're going to hit up the whole model with some gloss varnish, and that's just going to help with the next few processes we've got to do. Now I'm going to do a wash into the recesses, and I'm actually going to use the contrast paint Flesh Tearers red, and I prefer this to the washes because it's a much richer colour, and I just like the finish when it's dried instead of the older washes. And the gloss varnish makes it really easy to run into those recesses. If you make a mistake, you can actually wipe it off because you have the varnish there to protect it. I'm going to add some decals, and you can check our tutorial for that here. So I've base coated all the other details in black, and now there's some black on the model, you can really see how cool the red looks. I begin highlighting all of the black areas using dark grey. While I'm doing this, I'm trying to paint it nice and neat, but also pay attention to my light source. So I'm going to focus on the areas that match up with the bright red. Now I'm using French Mirage blue for the next highlight, and you can see I'm actually only highlighting in the center, just so it follows the shape of those red highlights on the arm. I'm going to do the same on the chest, and actually only highlight the wing part on the right, and that's just to sell the effect of having a light source. And actually it can have more impact, and it's less painting because you don't have to highlight the other side of the wings. So you can see here as I turn it, it's quite effective. It shows we've got a light source, and it's just making this one side a bit lighter, exactly like the red. Now we're going to base coat all of the metal parts, and we're going to use one of my favourite paints, which is this Vallejo metal colour Gunmetal. And I really like this because you don't need to dilute it, you just put it straight on the palette and you can begin base coating. Now for my next highlight, I'm going to use Grey Knight Steel, and I love the little hint of blue in this. I do make a mix with the Gunmetal for the first highlight, so it's not a sudden jump straight up to the blue silver. You can see I just focus the highlights on the top of the gun barrel to illustrate that it's a cylinder, and I also hit up all the rivets. I then do a final brighter highlight with Grey Knight Steel on its own, and again you can see I just focus on the top but a little bit of a smaller area now, and I just put a small edge highlight, but only on the bottom part of the hole. Okay, so for the eye lenses, we're going to do a turquoise, and I base coat with scale 75 Despair Green. Now I'm going to make a highlight on the bottom part of the lens, and this I'm trying to do as fine as possible, but if I make a mistake, I'll go back with Despair Green and then get it the size I want. You'll notice how I've turned the model so it makes it easy for me to do this brush stroke. Now I do this final highlight with blue-green, and this has great coverage, so it makes this difficult task a little bit easier. Okay, here we go, the dreaded white dot. Can I do it on camera? Miss. I've done it. Oh god, it's the worst thing ever. But there you go. Try your best to do that white dot. So now we're going to do the leather with a base coat of Rhinox hide. And the first highlight is going to be a mix with scale 75 Gobi brown. And when we're doing this, we're going to hit up the edges, but we're also going to add some random scratches to make it look like old tatty leather. Then I'll finish with just a final sharp highlight of Gobi brown on its own. And I'm just trying to do a few areas that will catch the light a little more, like underneath this blood drop. There isn't much gold on this model, so I base coated it with Decayed metal and then just gave it one highlight with Elven gold. Nice and simple, just do it neatly and it will look great. Okay, so now we're going to add some highlights to the red. You could of course have done this earlier, and you can use any of these colours really to make it brighter. It kind of depends on your taste. Even white is fine. So now I'm actually going to make a mix, and I'm going to use Salmon Rose with the Evil Sunz Scarlet together. So here I just take a little Salmon Rose and I keep adding it to the Evil Sunz until I'm happy with the edge highlight colour that I've made. When I'm army painting, I don't edge highlight everything, so I tend to focus on important areas like the head, parts of the knee, anything that's going to make the model look a little cooler but isn't going to take me a lot of time. If you prefer, of course you can edge highlight everything. Okay, now we're moving on to weathering, and we're going to paint some chips with Rhinox hide. I'm trying to do these as fine as possible. You know, I always think it looks better when we are controlled and subtle with our battle damage. You don't have to go crazy with it. I do focus on the edges of parts and try to make sure it's random so we don't end up with an even spotted look to the damage. Try and just think about the areas that will receive it, like the end of this toe here. This is almost where the edge highlights would be, but we're actually having it worn away with the chipping. You can see I've just added a few here, a couple on the head, and it's quite subtle when you look at the model from far back, but when you look close, you have this nice weathering. So here you go, one finished Blood Angel. I hope you like the overall effect. I absolutely love it myself, and for the time that you've put in, I think it looks fantastic. You can see we've given it a quick base here, and we will be doing some videos on basing later. If you enjoyed the video, then give it a like and leave us a comment too. We really like hearing from you. And if you want to see more videos from us, hit that subscribe button. Looking forward to seeing you on the next one.